How much you miss Tim Hortons coffee or not at all?
You know what? I've actually gotten away from coffee a little bit.
Oh, yeah?
When I do come back to Canada, that is the coffee that I would drink.
I was off it for 20 some odd years, and then, yeah, I went on a little keto fast, for lack of a better term, and man, it was tough. It was tough. Well, I like my bread and butter. I like my toast. I like my carbs, and anyways, not everyone, a lot of people have been trying it and have some, I got a little, I don't get out of the chair as much. I mean, my work is right here in my office. I don't get enough exercise, right? And so I did the keto, and about 3 days into it, I got the flu. Like, I got the keto flu. I had no idea about it, but I really had to try and remedy it in the middle of it.
That's actually something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, eh?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. I think with a lot of these, say fad diets, I mean, whatever you want to call them, I think there's, your body just needs balance. And I think when you start removing, essential carbohydrates, your body almost goes into shock mode. It's kind of like when people detox, you get sick, right? I mean, it's, your body's pushing out toxins and you get sick. So if you're not prepared for it and if you don't have the ability to withstand it, it's hard to go through those phases.
Yeah, I had 4 days of solid headache. I had 3 nights of complete bed sweats, and I was just all crampy and just sore. I knew I didn't have the flu, but anyways, it was healthy. It was effective at dropping the weight. It came off like really quickly. Anyways, I'm going back to my coffee story. I quit coffee when I started in real estate 25 years ago. I'd have 2 a day, and my pits were soaked, and I get all shaky and dehydrated and run to the bathroom all the time. And anyways, when I was on the keto, I started I've started back on coffee, and I used Tim Hortons double with sweetener. I know sweetener, but it was kind of like my treat, like because I couldn't eat anything. I was almost drove me crazy.
Oh,
anyway,
yeah, it does. I think it does drive a lot of people crazy.
And it got me back on the coffee again, so I've been enjoying it. Anyways, Riley Cote, thank you for your time, brother. It's been a few years. I appreciate your loyalty and coming on the show. And hey, we went back to, it's been a few years. I was on 610, I think, last time we spoke. So,
yeah.
What's new in the Cote world?
Well, I got a few different irons in the fire. I'm still, pushing hard in the hemp space. I got a hemp-derived CBD company. Working on closing out a deal with a local university here in Pennsylvania, Cheney University, and building out an extraction facility on their premises, as well as a soil-to-oil hemp curriculum. So cultivation, the processing, extraction, and the marketing and formulation of the product. So that's going to be a big one for us. It's going to help build, obviously, the actual extraction facility company brand, but also the Body Check Wellness brand, which is the hemp-derived CBD brand, and then real estate stuff, but also just want to work on my own personal brand, which is about, personal growth, spiritual development, mental skills. And that's under the brand Cote Culture, which I haven't launched yet officially. Just working on some podcasts, some audio stuff for it. And that's kind of about it, but it's keeping me moving. It's keeping me all over the place. And, things are changing. It's nice to see how things have changed since I got into the hemp space and, the healing world, and how, it went from like no one even understood hemp, and now everybody is talking about CBD and praise, in a really small amount of time, how the perception has shifted and how people are kind of coming around to understanding at least the surface level of what cannabis is and hemp is. But nonetheless, it is progress, and we'll take little wins as we get them. But it's been nice to see.
I started Nature's Hemp in 2001, and who would have ever thought? I mean, we were talking years ago before industrial hemp was legalized, and that was my, I wasn't going for the whole marijuana thing, although that's hugely important as well, but my angle was just industrial hemp. And whoever thought the United States of America would legalize weed before industrial cannabis? Like, it blows my mind, and now everyone's talking about CBDs. Well, hell, no one knew what an Omega was in 2001.
Right.
My mother thought I was crazy. What's this? Blah, blah, blah. And then now it's a buzzword, and I'm so glad. And, I wish I had stayed in that space a little longer, but I'm distracted. I'm also in real estate and addicted to talking to guys like you. And you never know. Once in a while, somebody will go, hey, that conversation with Cote, that was awesome. It changed my life. Like, I can't not do it because of that, right? But whoever thought that we'd be sitting here what is it, about 5 years later, and the world is completely changed, man.
Yeah, it really has. And it's unfortunate for Canada because I always thought Canada had the leg up. You know, they had the industrial hemp program for 25 years, and they were just growing it for seed and seed oil. So very one-dimensional, essentially wasting the rest of the product. But then they go full legalization. They had this medical cannabis program federally for I don't know how many years, 12 years maybe, whatever it was, thinking that they're going in the right direction with it. But I feel like it's just become an absolute abolishment, especially when the CBD is still sold under the dispensary model and not sold in, health food stores and, in the name of wellness, which it is. I think they're really complicating it. And unfortunately, the Americans are ahead and the Europeans are ahead and, probably the Chinese. I mean, the Chinese are certainly ahead in the industrial, side of things. But I tell you what, they're wasting a huge opportunity here, and they better figure it out quickly. Otherwise, everything's going to be sourced outside of Canada if they're not, too careful.
Yeah, it's amazing how many missed opportunities you have when things are up and coming in technology or agriculture or whatever it is. And I agree with you. We've missed our shot there now. But I just want to tell some of the people that are watching, Riley Cote is a former Philadelphia Flyer, an ex-Phantom as well. You won the Cup in 2004.
My first year.
Yeah. And the Calder Cup it was, right?
Yeah. Cup, yeah.
And the Phantoms Man of the Year for 06-07.
Yeah.
And the Flyers gave you an award too. What was it? Pele.
Yeah.
Pele Lindbergh trophy. Most improved, was it?
Yeah. I guess that's what what you get when you can't earn any of the other awards.
Would you take some skating classes the year before?
Yeah, went from 0 goals to 1 goal that year.
Yeah. Carey Price ain't doing so well these days. You can't be too sad to see that.
Exactly.
Brother, tell me about your activism with MS. I know your older sister Jamie has it, and you've been really active in that space as well. How does that come together with your hemp activism?
Well, I think the whole diagnosis of her MS was probably the very thing that pushed me over the edge of actually being vocal and actually, pursuing this on a grander scale. I had a lot of questions when she got her diagnosis, and this was, she's 2 years older than I am. This is going back 20 years she was diagnosed with this. So I struggled at first, just kind of like making some sense of it. You know what I mean? It's like, I always, heard there, we don't know what caused it. We don't have a cure. All these different diseases, and it just kind of made me question a lot of things. So I actually picked up a couple books. The first one being a book about natural cures. It was by a guy named Kevin Trudeau.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's, you could Google him and you could get a bunch of question marks. But the content of the book resonated with me because it just simplified things. Right? It was just about an abundance of toxins and a lack of nutrition and environmental poisons and government and policies and profits over pills or profits over people and the pill industry and all that stuff. So it made a lot of sense for me to kind of dive deeper and I started researching specifically MS and there was there's people will probably challenge me on this, but there's some information coming up about autoimmune disease caused by whether it was a later vaccination or an abundance of heavy metals, and I think you can correlate a lot of these autoimmune diseases with an abundance of heavy metals that actually sit in your brain, and so it ended up being like, detoxing the body and, understanding that whole process, kind of like the Gerson therapy. It's toxicity versus deficiency. And, we're toxic. A lot of the foods we're eating and the environments we're in are very toxic. And our elimination process can't keep up. So whether it's, number one, number two, or sweating or breathing, we just can't eliminate fast enough. So it accumulates and our bodies are designed to use food as medicine and detox and, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, all these, these words that we talk about that keep the body balanced, but your body can't keep up. The nutrition can't keep up with the deficiencies or the toxicities, and we get sick, right? So everything I kind of read seemed to be the same thing, whether it was MS, cancer, and the rest of it. So I became extremely passionate about just trying to help her from a nutritional healing component and kind of making her more aware of her environment. And then I started learning about cannabis as real, true medicine. I had a relationship with cannabis previous to this, but I didn't understand it to the level I do now, or even at the time when I started learning about it and how it can help at least manage the symptoms of MS, let alone actually taking a step further and getting her some real, true, deep results. But that was really what really put me over the edge on becoming passionate about that. And then what I realized is essentially all disease is very similar in the sense that it's an abundance of inflammation, or it's autoimmune. It's our body's fighting itself, and always connecting it back to our own daily behaviors, whether it's starting from nutrition. We eat 4 or 5 times a day, most people. So what are you putting in your body, and what are you surrounding yourself with, and what are you putting on your body? I mean, a lot of diseases go back to, and again, abundance of heavy metals. So whether it's antiperspirants in your armpit, which is aluminum and whatever else, the makeup world, cosmetic world, a lot of lead, again, a lot of aluminum, a lot of these things that shouldn't be in our products, and again, seeping into our skin and then working our way up to the brain. So everything kind of seemed to be the same but different. So I just realized that all the information I gathered, whether it was nutritional healing or cannabis and all this, I just realized that they all were connected, and they all need to be talked about, because it is a series of holistic practices, and combined, integrated together. It's not just a one size fits all, cure all type of model that I'd learned. So, to answer your question, it was my sister's diagnosis that put me into this world, and then the MS world put me into the all things healing. You know what I mean? Because if I realized if I could understand this disease, at least enough to understand the rest of them, that they were all very, very, very similar, where it was an abundance of toxicity and really a lack of nutrition, and cleaning up the environment, cleaning up the diet was a good start. And then there's obviously other tools along the way, the cannabis plant, the fungi kingdom, all these other miracles that Mother Nature has provided us, and we've almost failed to use for at least the last 90 years. And I think throughout history they've been probably banned multiple times as well, because it's always about taking away resources, controlling resources from people. So it's unfortunate, but the age of information now, we can get the good word out there. We can talk about these things. We can shed some light on experiences and anecdotal stories, which I think in the cannabis space has helped propel the cannabis movement into legalization or quasi-legalization in some places. So just got to keep this up and keep talking about it, because people are catching on. The natural world heals, and I think we've been misled systematically, fundamentally, and the current model for healing doesn't work.
No, it's sick care. They want to keep us sick. There's a lot of money in being sick, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
Now, I had a girlfriend of mine, well, not a girlfriend, a friend of mine that she's got MS, and it was right when she was first diagnosed, and it was coming on really strong, and she was learning how to deal with it, and then she spent a lot of time overseas, so she couldn't take the hemp oil with her. But she found, I always use the old adage, you heal from the inside out. What you put in is, and that's why it takes several weeks. I don't need to tell you this, but you start taking the hemp oil, you're not going to see results right off the bat. It takes a few weeks for it to get out to the skin, to your nails, to your hair, to your brain, all that kind of stuff. But I was surprised that when I put her in, I put everyone in a hemp milk bath if I can, because no one's ever tried it. And it makes your skin so silky, and just the scent of that, I mean, unbelievable. Anyway, I put her in the tub. She came out and she says, for the first time in 18 months, am pain-free. Like, out of the tub, pain-free. And I'm like, it blew my mind that a topical application, and I'm not, again, it's anecdotal. It was only, one person, but I often tell people, hey, if you're feeling like shit, blend a bunch of it up in the blender with some hot water, throw it in the tub, and you really be surprised. Have you? I know we know we heal from the inside out, so the nutritional end of it, eating the hemp oil, is important. But have you heard about a topical pain reliever like just industrial hemp milk?
Yeah,
really?
I have, and it's amazing. You look at your skin as the largest organ, which it is, and it's a great vehicle for, getting anti-inflammatory properties into your body. Just that full body relaxation, and your body heals, quicker when you're, relaxed and healing, and in that mode. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, just with the topicals that, just from, on the hemp derived CBD component side of it, simple topical in a in a small area, how much relief people get through the skin, and the baths. Yeah, in a perfect world, you wake up in the morning and start your day off with something like that, a hemp milk bath, or add some essential oils to that. I mean, there's obviously other pieces of Mother Nature that are applicable here, and turmeric and all these, ginger, all these anti-inflammatories. But I think once we start understanding the human condition as an abundance of inflammation, which whether you're dealing with arthritis, disease state, just acute injuries, it's all inflammation. So we need to, we need to be aware of that and be, on top of it, get ahead of it. So I always say, like, hemp derived CBD is like a multivitamin, like a daily essential. It's like I'm in the best shape of my life right now, and I feel like I still take it to stay ahead of it. Where I was taking it before because I was using it as reactive medicine. I was banged up, the brain, my physical body, and it's a great reactive medicine. But once you can kind of reel it in and get back to where you need to be, now you continue to use it because we're always fighting inflammation, and we're always fighting anxiety. And I look at that as more of the mental health version of inflammation of the physical body, right? It's like it's your body's response to too much or trauma or whatever else. And the same thing, in the mental health side of things, is like anxiety is like a red flag for we're not doing it right. We're stressing ourselves out, and we need to calm down, or we need to meditate, or bring it in, and so these tools are available for us to keep the stressors at bay and the inflammation at bay. And this is something that people need to be taking on a daily basis, not just when you become sick or become inflamed, or or you become anxious. I think we need to get ahead of this stuff so it doesn't manifest itself into disease state.
One of my good friends, Brad Sheehan, back in the day, he, I was a Green Party guy, and he's like, Jimmy, you need to read this book. It was The Emperor Wears No Clothes. Sure. Jack Herer, obviously, the emperor himself. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not. And he is a typical conspiracy theorist guy, right? So I said, I'm not reading your conspiracy theory guy. He's like, Jimmy, it's right up your alley. It's green, it's green, it's green. You got to read it. And so there was a lot of, I flipped through it. There's lots of pictures and illustrations, so it's a perfect book for me. Anyways, I took it home, and I got through it in like a couple days. And then I was just left with, when you see those infomercials with the animals, the WWF, or,
right.
Kids, you're just like, oh, this is all wrong. Well, that's what I came back to. I'm like, dude, this is wrong. And this is history. It's not conspiracy theory. This is a conspiracy, and it's historical. And I remember his sister, Dana, who's no longer with us, she died of cancer way too young. But her monthly cycle was murderous. And I'm just hearing you when you say staying ahead of it. She'd run out of oil, and a month later she'd call us because she was losing her mind. And we had to tell her, don't run out of it because it wears off slowly. But she always knew that 30 days off it, her period would come, and she was just devastated, like the cramping and the pain, the mental stress, and all this kind of stuff. And if there's only one thing, women should take this thing just for that alone. And maybe it's related to inflammation and what. I'm so grateful I don't have to deal with that monthly. Well, not quite as bad. But yeah, it was strange that she would say, sorry, it's been 6 weeks. I forgot to call you guys and I'm going out of my mind. And then it'd take it another 3 or 4 weeks to get back on the train and start feeling better about it. But
yeah,
I agree with what you say about staying ahead of the game. So I'm looking at you as kind of an expert these days because I've done the research, but it's 20 years for me since I really delved into it. So what do you say to the people, and I got this the other day from a veterinarian. My dad's dog blew out an ACL or an MCL or both, and then it's bilateral, so the other one usually goes too. So boom, she was only a year old. She's fully recovered now almost. And the vet said, fish oil. I said, Sam, I got jugs of hemp oil. Forget fish oil. Right. And she went back to the vet, and the vet said, yeah, and I've heard this argument before, that omega-3 is not immediately available. It needs to be processed by the body. If you give them fish oil, that DHA or whatever it's called, that omega-3 is right there. It's available. Your body doesn't have to synthesize it. What do you say when you come up against that argument, or have you ever heard it?
I actually have never heard that argument before. I just always look at hemp seed oil as a plant-based alternative to fish oil. You know what I mean? There's a reason why people get away from fish oil. A lot of the times they're high in mercury or high in heavy metals. And that's source a really clean source. I mean, but a lot of people don't really know, what they're doing on that in that world either. But I've never heard that argument before. I think there's always, anytime you bring up hemp or cannabis, and they're not educated, they're always going to drag their feet on their rebuttal or what they really truly feel, because I think they're just not well versed enough, and it's a safe argument. It's a safe stance for them to play it safe and shy away. But I've always heard and read that the omega-3, 6, and 9 ratio of hemp seed oil is far superior than most, well, at least in the nut and seed world. I'm not sure if you can compare it to fish oil, but I have never heard that hemp seed oil is not bioavailable or not it needs to synthesize differently than a fish oil. But I could be wrong on that. But from what I've learned in my experience with hemp seed oil, it's unbelievable.
Keeps you all lubed up.
When I started getting into the omega-3 fatty acids and really the nutritional side of things, going through the hemp seed. So when I first started ingesting this in 2011, a lot of hemp seed oil, a lot of hemp seeds. Obviously, I just went back to the seed and said, well, why am I supplementing the protein, which is a powder, and then the oil, which is just strictly an oil? I'm like, why don't I just eat the seed? You know what I mean? I get the fiber, get the fat, you get the so I just kind of stopped taking the protein and the oil separately, and just started, instead of supplementing, just eating whole foods and eating the whole seed. So it was just you read about the digestibility of the hemp protein. It seemed to be topping every list I was reading as far as plant-based protein. I was using a lot of whey protein back in the day, and not very digestible. Bloating, gassy. My belly was out to here. And once you get away from that, and you're just so trained to think about quantity. How many grams of protein are you getting? Not versus not the digestibility. How digestible is that protein source? So 10 grams of hemp seeds is far superior than 40 grams of whay protein powder.
Yeah, it breaks down really easily.
The body, it breaks down, and then especially if you're eating the hemp seed, a whole food versus an isolate of dairy, your body just receives it in such a positive manner. And I think,
God's gift.
Myself is how gassy I was back in the day. I can't tell you. It was just,
nothing's worse than flaxseed, man. That stuff just tears my guts up.
Does it? Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes the life for anyone around me absolutely miserable, because it coming out doesn't do you any favors.
Now, are you eating when you do flaxseed?
I don't do it anymore. I used to put it in my power drink, but I used to just grind it up. Yeah, and it would just torch me.
I've been told that flax seeds are tough to digest in their whole form, that they need to be ground up into like a powder for them to be more bioavailable. So maybe that was part of the problem, that causing some gassiness there. But everyone's different too. We get these extremist views on like, I'm going vegan, and I'm never going to touch an animal protein again, and they don't understand it enough, and they do it improperly. And I think I think with this, when you're talking about true health, and you have to understand that everyone's different, and everyone has a different GI, and some people react differently to different foods, whether they're plant-based or not. You know what I mean? I know a lot of healthy foods that people don't react well with, and that's just fine. That's just like the individual. Okay, we'll move on to the next healthy food and find what works. But we can't think that all foods are great for all people, and the same thing with medicine too. It's some people just react differently. Some people are on pharmaceutical drugs, and there's a reaction with the food, or reaction with the gut flora or whatnot. But everyone's different with that, so it's just a little bit of trial and error. I haven't done a whole lot of flax, so I really couldn't tell you how I respond to that. But I think I've been able to reel it in enough now to understand what foods resonate well with me and which ones don't. Just listening to your body. Once you start becoming aware of this stuff, you just realize how you're supposed to feel and how certain foods make you feel, and and make some correlation and make some choices around those feelings, because if we keep eating and it's making us tired, or or it's making our GI crampy, and if we gotta take a tum or something after we've eaten, it's probably the wrong thing, or just way too much of it, because we shouldn't have to take over the counter pharmaceuticals or garbage to help with our digestion, or counteract some of the gas and bloating that we've gotten from the food we ate. Like, that's, to me, what is it, Beano or whatever it is? Like, it's like, come on, like that's how crazy as a culture we become, is that we don't even identify with our bodies at all as far as what it's telling us. The red flags, like these symptoms that eventually turn into diseases. Like, if you're constipated, well, maybe look at your diet. What are you eating that's making you constipated? Or if you're taking a drug or something, you can identify that that's probably the cause of it. But if it's food related, instead of taking a drug for constipation, loosening up, maybe you have to because it's an emergency state now, but why don't remove the food that's causing the constipation? I think that's the craziness that I see, is like, okay, well, we'll just keep taking pills to counteract the poor decisions that we're making. And eventually we're just constantly making poor decisions with it, mainly with our diet and our drink. And then we're trying to counteract that with pharma and all these outside sources, where we just became more, minimalistic and just recognize these things. We wouldn't have to be on, back on the offense to kind of counteract, the way your body's responding to your poor behaviors. It's craziness, really. But I think we've become so accustomed to operating like this, and we become addicted to a lot of these tools. I say tools, that people think that they're leaning on long term, but you really can't. Sugar, caffeine, alcohol, tobacco, and then a lot of these pharmaceutical drugs have very, very highly addictive qualities and properties. So I think we've kind of lost sight of who we are and how we need to operate and what laws we need to follow. And it's the universal laws of energy, right? We've just, kind of come off the rails, and we're confused. We're looking for answers, and we're on social media, and everyone's an expert, and we've lost faith in the medical establishment, the people that are actually supposed to be looking out for health. We have a heroin and opioid crisis, and mental health crisis, obesity crisis. Like, how could we become so disconnected? How could we have gotten it so wrong when we're supposed to be following the science, and and these super highly intelligent professionals, which in my opinion are just puppets for the corporations to pump out whatever science and whatever they want. Unfortunately, Mother Nature's always done it best. We've tried to recreate that in labs, with highly expensive patented medicines, and we're sicker than ever. We haven't cured shit. Nothing.
I think the paradigm shifted a little bit, and Riley, I appreciate your comments about reactionary. We wait until the symptoms appear, and then we take a pill or something to get on top of it. When if we're just proactive, by watching our diet or taking supplements, I tell everyone, just take a shot of hemp oil every day. If you can't mix it into something, just shoot it. It doesn't taste bad. It's a little oily going down, and I do find with some people though that the first time they take it, they seem to burp it up for a few days. Like, it keeps coming back on them, like one of those foods that your body's saying, "Hey, get the hell out of here." Just stay with it. It only lasts a couple days, and once you get by that, tasting it all day thing, it can really help you out. But what did you find as far as obstacles? I know you're well connected in the NHL and with your relationship with the Flyers and the Phantoms, and then I know you've tried to get in there as far as helping guys, talking to guys. What did you find as far as obstacles that you had to overcome because of the stigma of this plant called hemp or cannabis?
Well, I think besides the league itself, the league is just not ready to change its policies.
Not even on the industrial hemp as like oil for a supplement to eat.
If as a food, absolutely. You can buy hemp seed oil, hemp protein at any health food store in Canada or the U.S. That's been fair game for however long. It's never been a ban substance.
So what were you approaching about CBDs or?
CBD
THC?
and or THC. You know what I mean? Now we're getting into like the more the medicinal side of things versus the nutritional side of things.
Management,
and, right, and the pain management, anxiety management, sleep management, inflammation management, neuroprotectant. So we're playing a contact sport. We're constantly banging our bodies.
So they'll still rather see you guys on opioids than cannabis?
Well, their drug testing policy is still, in effect. They test for THC. You can't test for CBD. But they haven't been proactive in saying, okay, hey, well, here's an alternative. Here's a better way. So guys are on their own. So if you're talking about like the league versus the players, I would say 95% of the players are using some sort of cannabis-based product, whether it's CBD alone and or a combination of THC or one or the other. Mm-hmm. I can assure you that just dry herb back in the day, more than 50% of the guys are smoking. Now you got transdermal patches, topicals, sublinguals, capsules. I mean, you name it, there's products for it. So guys are very well versed. There's a lot of money in this game, in sports. So, they're more mindful than they've ever been. They spend more money on training and recovery than they ever have. So the players are well versed. They're buying this stuff on their own. This needs to come from the league and the teams themselves. In my opinion, it needs to be actually taught and provided for in the locker room. So that needs to come from the league. I mean, as long as you're drug testing for THC, that means you're looking at cannabis as a performance sensor, right, which is not, or an illicit substance, Schedule 1 drug, which I guess it's technically still a Schedule 1 drug in the eyes of the U.S. federal government. But I think the cat's out of the bag as far as like, real true healing plant versus pseudoscience and reality. So they know the direction it's going. That international border there complicates things. So like now we're traveling with it now, so there's some liability issues there. I think that's really what hangs it up.
Okay.
But as far as, the acceptance from the players, retired players, I mean, they're all in. I mean, they can't get enough of it, honestly. It's one of those things. So it's like if the league really wanted to help, and I do understand the political component to this. So like, Canada's legal, but U.S. isn't. So it's like, okay, well, where do you draw the line? Is like, are you going to fly into the U.S. now and then now pick up some cannabis wherever like how does that work? So, and how do you tell your players to travel safe with your cannabis products? So in the U.S., if it was just a sport that stayed in the U.S., you can travel with hemp. So it's no big deal. So, and until the U.S. government changes their stance and it gets a little bit more clear on, flying with it, traveling across, that international border, I just don't see how the NHL can actually promote it. You know what I mean? And because that's putting their players in really really bad spots. And if something did happen, it would be on them. And there's probably some other political underlying issues too, as far as like alcohol companies and pharma companies controlling
big sponsorships.
You know what I mean? And I'd like to think in 2 years, you watch Canopy or one of these big ones will be the title sponsor of the NHL.
Oh, we'll be sitting there going, man.
They're just waiting. They're just waiting. They can't advertise in Canada, right? You can't advertise. I know Canopy has a box or a suite at the Maple Leaf Gardens, and they can't promote it or advertise it. They're just waiting to flick the switch. They just invested. Well, I'd say it was in the summertime. $20 million to NHL Alumni Association to study CBD in the brain. Wow. They're just hovering. I mean, they're probably not the only one. There's probably about 5 other big dogs just hovering and waiting to get into pro sports. And it's a matter of time. Again, I say cat's out of the bag. It's like, alcohol is outdated. That way of managing pain and emotional pain is outdated. It just rots people. It rots their relationships. It rots their brain. And I've lived it. I've seen it in the hockey world over and over and over again, the alcoholism. And it starts with cannabis prohibition, because what else are you going to manage pain with? It's either alcohol or opioids.
I've never considered alcohol to be a pain reliever. And, you see all the movies that do a shot as they take out the bullet type of thing. But
it's pain reliever 101. It's physical pain and it's emotional pain, probably more than the physical.
Yeah, I had pericarditis last summer, and I spent about 4 days in the hospital. It was pretty much a heart attack, but my heart's in good shape. But when I get out of the hospital, I remember when I started feeling good enough to have a couple beers with my buddy, and I was at the house here, and I had not even 2 beers, and I'm up walking, like raking the yard, and my headspace is all like, look at me. I haven't felt as good in 2 weeks. 2 beers, and I'm up walking around and doing stuff, and but, I had to pay for it the next day because I wasn't cured. But man, for those 6 or 7 hours there, I felt like it could take on the world. But what's the relationship with CTE? I know a tough guy like you, an enforcer, probably had too many smacks in the mouth and fallen on his head a couple times out in the ice. And have you done any work with the guys that are really suffering with that? And what's your connection to them?
Yeah, so CTE can't be diagnosed technically until you're dead. So obviously there's symptoms of what could be. Mm-hmm. I think this whole conversation about CTE fighting in the brain is somewhat complicated because what I've seen, and I'm an accountable guy, right? I mean, I've been punched in the face thousands of times, been over 250 hockey fights, wow. Right? Party like a rock star, a lot of booze, a lot of street drugs, and being honest with this conversation about the brain and brain health, I have to be honest with substance abuse and how it impacts the brain. So if you want to mix in head trauma, concussions and the whole bit with substance abuse, well, you're going to get a messy result, right? I mean, it's not going to be good. I mean, you just mentioned alcohol, you didn't feel good the next day. Well, it dehydrates the brain. And staying up late and partying and doing that whole thing is not good for the brain. And then you mix in, get punched in the head. So my point being is I lived it. I did it very, very wrong, but thankfully I was able to exit the game, at the age of 28, because I recognized how bad it was and how bad my mental health was at the time, and ended up having an exit strategy. But what I learned when I got out of it was, I dived into this quest of, holism and all the stuff we were talking about earlier. But when I started to learn about the cannabinoids being neuroprotectants, and the U.S. government actually holding a patent on these cannabinoids as neuroprotectants and antioxidants, that's when I knew that this was my mission for life, because it was like, okay, well, now I have, 8 years of experience of being, punched in the face, substance abuse, party animal, the whole bit. And now I can just like exit the game and heal. So that's when I really started to get into cannabis on this, medicinal, spiritual level, was understanding these cannabinoids as neuroprotectants. So once I started learning that, I also learned, psilocybin mushrooms, essentially the same thing, reconnecting neural pathways, helping brain health and, anxiety and substance abuse, alcoholism, all these PTSD, all these things that I essentially had, right? So between the two of them, and again, both had relationships previous to this but again, not understanding the science, not exactly understanding what they were really doing, but now with a new intention, using these plant-based and medicines and the fungi to essentially help mitigate some of the damage that it caused and help heal the brain and promote neurogenesis, brain cell growth, and just help regain my whole mental health back. So both of those tools really were saviors, in the sense that now I understood the brain enough that, okay, well, yeah, you can hurt the brain, you could damage the brain, but you can also repair the brain, just like the physical body. Your body wants to heal. Mm-hmm. Your body is an amazing living organism, right? It's just trying to survive. And we are great at auto intoxication. We are great at killing ourselves. I forget who said it, is like, we don't die, we kill ourselves. That's essentially what happens, right? I mean, accumulation of decisions over your life, like how much poison can your body take? How much alcohol can your body take? How much, stress? How many late nights and lack of sleep? How much of that can your body actually take, and then eventually you die, or it manifests itself into disease? But, again, what I learned from getting punched in the face, for a living, was that I could reverse all the damage I had caused. I mean, I was accountable. I admitted, I partied, I did all these things. I need to stop that. First thing I did, first year out of playing hockey, stopped drinking, just drinking water. Went mainly plant-based diet, just started detoxing, adding nutrition into my body, and then using these allies, using cannabinoids more mindfully, getting into the CBD oils, non-intoxicating. So I wasn't taking that to to be impaired. I mean, I was still using THC, but adding that other element, other dimension of cannabis to my daily regimen. And psilocybin, I went through these different phases of macro dosing and doing the hero's dose, 5 grams, and just sitting and listening and in a micro meditation to micro dosing.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how you apply it if it was microdose, because you don't want to be tripping walking around in the world. So, I mean, if you're using it for therapy, maybe you could do the 5 gram, sit and meditate, freak out, watch the walls melt. But yeah, I guess I don't know much about the microdosing, but I hear microdosing on LSD actually, and there's some guys with PSTD are getting some really good results of the microdosing from. Yeah,
it's just enough to really kind of activate that brain connectivity and activity. It's just you almost feel it, honestly. Like with the microdose, what I feel was, like just a sense of clarity, focus, this subtle energy. Mm-hmm. But then once you cross over that microdose line, I mean, you're talking about, 100 milligrams is 1/10 of a gram. So anybody knows anything about, dosing mushrooms, it's really insignificant when you talk about eating mushrooms, but it's enough to
1/10 of a gram, eh? Yeah.
You know what I mean? Wow. Yeah, 1/10 of a gram. And that's, it's what I've been using mainly. And it's amazing, they both serve their purpose, just like cannabis. I mean, I think if we understood cannabis a little bit more, even, as far as microdosing cannabis and macrodosing cannabis, I think most people, when they associate, cannabis with a feeling, they right away think of like beyond stoned, stoned on my back, on my couch.
Greening out. Yep.
Well, it's just like, it's intemperance, right? I mean, it's a lack of moderation or a lack of understanding how much your body actually needs. It's like, people say, "Oh yeah, the tryptophan in the turkey made me tired." It's like, no, it wasn't the 3,000 calories of bread and stuffing and mashed potatoes you ate too. You know what I mean? It's intemperance. So if people understood, microdosing food or microdosing caffeine or microdosing any of this stuff and how much your body actually needs versus always going to the other extreme, which is overdoing it. You know what I mean? We overdo everything. So that comes with experience and awareness and being in tune with your body, because that's the way I view essentially anything I put in my body. Is this a micro or is this a macro? You know what I mean? How am I going to feel from this? Because obviously 2 different effects, but cannabis is a great case study for this, because 2.5 gram edible doesn't sound like much, but highly effective. Microdose. Once you get into 10 milligrams, still not that much, but could end somebody's day. Not actually life or death, but end somebody's day in the sense of how we sacrifice productivity,
right?
Medicine. You know what I mean? And that's the whole key of healing and finding the sweet spot with these herbs and flowers and fungi is how can I use this medicine where I don't have to be impaired for 5 hours or be on my back, or where I can actually get up and be productive and get my stuff done and feel good and communicate with people and commune and all these things. So it's respect, right? It's respect to the medicine or the food, because we're trying to get energy out of this. We're trying to get healing out of these things, but they can also work against us. I mean, every single thing that is good can also be bad. And that's just a respect for it, right? I mean, you can actually overdrink water and die.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you can clearly overeat food and maybe not die on the spot. I'm sure people have, but I mean, you can eat yourself to death.
Yeah, for sure.
In the whole argument of cannabis, like I think of all the things out there, all the tools out there to manage, say anxiety, inflammation, all these different things. It's got to be the safest. Yes, you can abuse it. You can overconsume it.
And if you green out, you think you're dying. More people have ended up in the hospital from edibles than any other drug ever, because it's the old joke. Hi, honey, I ate one of those cookies. Oh no, that's not the cookie. You don't eat those cookies, honey. Well, call me back in an hour or so. Hey, how are you doing? Hi, honey, and me. How are you doing? Oh, I'm fine. I'm in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. What do you mean? Oh, I thought I was dying. I'll meet you there. I took it one time and I didn't have any respect for it either, being a lifelong smoker of cannabis. Well, since my high school days. And then it was the only thing that would make my mother sleep when she was dying of cancer. Was the cookies that my cousin made out of the butter. And then after she was gone, we were having a few friends over one night. And I'm like, yeah, give me one of those cookies. Well, I was a bunch of drinks in. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, well, my THC level is like, give me a cookie. Because everyone's saying, oh, those cookies, I'm like, I'll be fine. Right. I ate the thing. And then again, I had the Lenny Kravitz doing the spinning on the carpet. I was on the couch for 45 minutes. I couldn't function. And I think that's a lot, I'm a seasoned recreational drug user from way back, a lot less now than I used to be, especially with the alcohol, but I just didn't have any clue. And I think this is the problem with a lot of people that try cannabis. They get their balls when they're drinking, and then they try to smoke, and then they end up throwing up because I always tell people, listen, give it a chance when you're straight. Like, find out what this thing is all about. And I appreciate you talking about macro versus micro, because I think when you smoke, that's probably a macro, because your blood, the capillaries just extract the THC like that. And then, macro is doing like a whole cookie rather than, I've talked to a lot of people, musicians. Geez, on Wall Street, they're microdosing psilocybin and LSD to be on the top of their game. And I've heard people say it's just like having a bunch of coffees. It's just like having the best day you've ever had, and you're not torched. You're not inebriated.
Sustainable energy is focus. Exactly it. I mean, like I said, Silicon Valley, the same thing as the coders, man. It's like you're able to dial into your work without distraction. Focus. Most people are so distracted, right? I mean, you got your phones, you got people, blah blah blah. All these things going on. I think it just helps you dial in. But you made a really good point, or you started what I wanted to make a point on was the alcohol first, and then cannabis. Say a rookie maneuver. I've done it. I've done it a ton, but you gotta be very, very careful if you're drinking first, then consuming cannabis, because that's what happens.
I think it's something about the alcohol that lets it go through the brain barrier more easily. Yeah, it needs fat too.
Spins. People are landing up puking, have really bad experience, and I always say, people want to say cannabis is the gateway drug, and I say it's the gateway to wellness. It's an exit drug, but to me, the true gateway drug is alcohol.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
For your exact reason there is, like, every stupid thing I've done in my life, every hard drug I've done, always been under the influence of alcohol.
Even the hard drugs. I don't wake up after doing the hard drugs if I stay away from the alcohol. Well, alcohol usually leads to the hard drugs, but even if I went crazy on the hard drugs, if I didn't drink, I wake up in the morning, I'm like, wow, do I actually feel normal? Other than I haven't slept in so long or whatever. But you add the alcohol to it, it's a bad combination all the way around.
It's tough, man. Yeah, just poor decision making, right? I mean, again, the decision making is one thing, and then what it's actually doing to your brain and body is a whole other thing.
I don't think there's another drug, and I don't have many that I've ever played around with in high school. And we did the LSD and the mushrooms and stuff like that. I don't play. I did acid a couple years ago on New Year's, just for the hell of it. I had a half hit, and I was with a buddy, and we took it, and my face the next day was sore from smiling. It was exactly. I've never had a bad trip or whatever, but it's anyways, I'm rambling now. I can't remember where I was going. Tell us about your new venture, man, and what some of the products that you're kicking. I still look at the market, and I'm not, again, I don't occupy much space in there anymore, but I still looking at a commercial oil that's EFA loaded, like hemp oil is, just right out of the seed, but then with the addition of CBD. Now, is CBD's regulated down there? Do you need to, or can you just put it on a supermarket shelf and have whole cold pressed hemp oil with CBD in it? Because I think the CBD, what it doesn't have in it naturally, is a really nice addition, and I think that's got to be a marketable product, man.
100%. Yeah. So it's legal in the U.S. under the Farm Bill. It's not regulated. So the FDA still hasn't drawn their line in the sand. So what you're seeing right now, even before
it's Wild West
Farm Bill was signed, is the Wild West. I mean, every health food store, every cafe, any holistic healing center, whether it's a yoga studio to a chiropractor, massage therapist, it's sold everywhere. I think it's just the big dog companies that are just playing a little bit safer than the middle tier and smaller companies as far as putting in their stores, like CVS, Walgreens. They've all put it, at least the top.
It's not like that in Canada, man. CBD's not being blown up there.
No, because that was what I was saying earlier, is that they've mismanaged this legalization, where the CBD is sold under the dispensary model. So you actually still have to go through that model to buy CBD, versus in, again, the U.S. it's sold as a health food. It's a supplement.
Well, what is it, money, you think? Or just ignorance?
Well,
we know it's ignorance.
Oh, yeah, it's ignorance. I mean, I think the people that are, regulating this don't understand it enough, or they're protecting, the pharma.
Right.
I think you're going to see in the U.S. it's going to change. I mean, these regulations will come out in the next 6 months. They were supposed to already come out this fall. It's a challenging one, because how do you regulate it? Is it a pharmaceutical? Because GW Pharmaceuticals owns a patent and has a FDA approved drug for epilepsy. It's a natural CBD, full spectrum CBD product. Wow. So it is technically right now approved for a drug. So
that's not synthetic, though, is it?
It's not synthetic. It's 100% natural. Yeah. Actually surprising.
Yeah, really. I know they didn't go far with the
isolate. Yeah, so it's very surprising, but they do have an FDA approved drug on the market. So the FDA very well could say, guess what, guys, take everything off the shelves. This is a drug. And they've made statements like that before, where it's like, okay. But then, you have these food companies, and, everyone and their brother is infused it into something. Like, it's to me, it can cover all that. It can be a pharmaceutical, it can be a nutraceutical, or it could be a holistic medicine, and it should be able to be infused in food. You know what I mean? We have to let the common man play in this game, because the common man is the one that got cannabis legalized in the first place, or pushed it. It certainly wasn't the corporations lobbying for this. You know what I mean? They were the ones fighting it. Now they wanted to get into it. Biotech, pharma, alcohol, tobacco, all the big dogs. So let's make this a little bit more of a even playing field. Right now it's unregulated, so the common man is just taking advantage of this gray area right now, which they did even previous to the Farm Bill. But topicals, capsules, I mean, you name it, you find the delivery method, or it's out there. I mean, barbecue sauce, cotton candy, I mean, it's become disgraceful, honestly. They've exploited something so powerful and good, and now they're taking advantage of naive consumers.
It's like the greenwashing. Everything's going to be green.
Yeah, CBD on the front of everything, CBD clothes, CBD sauce. CBD. I mean, you name it. But that's how naive people are. Is like all they know about hemp and cannabis is CBD. They don't understand like the rest of it. but on anything, they'll buy it, and that's so. There needs to be some regulation, obviously, because right now there's no standard either. I mean, these guys, are probably extracting this in their bathtubs, and a lot of these companies, and there's no real true standard. So there needs to be some regulation. But I'm just concerned of how regulated it's going to be. Is it going to be overly red tape like Canada, where it's like, okay, well, now we legalize it, but only if you're one of these certain people that you can profit from this. And it's, politicians and, law enforcement and all these different people coming out of the woodworks that are trying to get their cake. So we'll see where it goes. But as it stands right now, I mean, you can walk in any health food store, any convenience store, you'll find some version of a CBD product. Can't guarantee it's going to be good. But,
right.
You have to figure that out on your own. And that's the challenge of unregulated, territories.
Yeah, wild west. Anyways, just expand on your products a little bit more, and then just on the way out, I want to respect your time. I want to get your take on the current state of the NHL, though. But tell us about Body Check and Athletes for Care and everything else you're working on.
Sure. Yeah. Body Check Wellness is a hemp-derived CBD company. Everything is grown and processed in Boulder, Colorado currently. Organically grown. Soil is nutrient-rich. Processing is supercritical CO2 extraction. High quality product. We just wanted to put together a high quality product that would compete against any of the people that are actually doing this the right way. So what we've seen, there was just a lot of snake oil on the marketplace. Just a lot of people just very, very well marketed companies putting nicely flashy CBD labels all over the place. And we wanted to do it right and do something that actually worked. And that's what we did. So we got oils, the tinctures, sublingual underneath the tongue, capsules, and topicals. And one of the unique products that we do have is a capsule. It's 10 milligrams of full spectrum CBD oil, as well as a blend of 6 different medicinal mushrooms, all legal, no psilocybin in there.
Oh, really?
but all positive for the brain,
nice. Okay.
and immunity and energy. So lion's mane, I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but really good for the brain and focus and clarity. And a chaga reishi, good for immunity, and it's cordyceps, good for energy. So it's this combination of CBD, which helps calm the nervous system and brings that the overall feeling of just well-being, and then the added value of the the focus, clarity, and immunity boosting properties of the mushrooms. So just just trying to stay progressive with this whole movement, because as like CBD, I make the analogy all the time. CBD is like vitamin C to the orange. It's just one compound in this plant. And we've become so shallow in our thinking that we just right away, it's woo, everything all in on CBD. It's okay, well, it's a great compound, but there's more to it.
Don't forget where it comes from.
Yeah. So
has Rogan picked up on it with On It? Do you know? Because he's
I'm not sure if On It has a CBD product yet. I'm sure they're right around the corner. He just actually endorsed a CBD drink the other day. I'm trying to blank what it's called, but those guys are ahead of the curve with all that stuff too.
Perfect.
So
you got to touch his booking agent there, Matt, up and get you on the show, man. I love the Rogan.
I would love that conversation, because I feel like I listen to him all the time, but I feel like his philosophies are very in line with mine.
Yeah,
pretty much top to bottom.
Cool.
Sure.
Talk to us a little bit about the NHL on the way out. What are you seeing these days? What's last time we talked, I'm not a huge Bettman fan. I know you're a big fan, but what are you seeing these days in the NHL, the current state?
It's changed so much since I retired, and it hasn't been that long. 2011. There has to be this middle ground of, the Broad Street bullies and this new age NHL. I think the game itself has become very soft, and I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh yeah, we need fighting, we need this barbaric behavior, but I mean,
it certainly settled a bunch of disputes rather than the spearing, right?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's the fighting and the accountability has always removed this cheap play, right?
And whether it's forced the code, and now it doesn't seem like there is a code.
Exactly. It's just it's self-policing, and accountability is a powerful thing, especially when you got someone on the other bench that will put a fist through your mouth if you act a certain way. You know what I mean? And fear is powerful, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, not that the game needs to be about that, but you see a lot of guys running around now and acting like King Kong, and there's no accountability. And it was like, okay, we'll just go hide behind the refs. Let's go on the power play, and so I just think it's bred a lot of disrespect in the game. So for that reason, I'm not loving it. I think the attitude for some of these younger guys, it's I don't know, call them millennials, or what the next generation's called, but softer generation. The entitlement. I coached pro sports not even 2 years ago, and the entitlement of some of these guys, they're just like, okay, well, I'm drafted. Now give me a spot in the Flyers, or give me a spot. It's like, well, no, you've only earned your draft position. Now you got to earn a spot in an organization. So it's, the work has just really begun. And, from that perspective, I just think the way we think has become so soft, just again, no accountability. No one wants to own up and be responsible. I think, and you see it trickle down into just the current affairs of the NHL. It's like we're going on witch hunts to take down people. Where I think of all the sports, I mean, hockey's got to be up there as far as one of the there's always flaws in everything, but it's got to be one of the best cultures in team sports. But yeah, it certainly got its flaws, and there's a lot to be fixed. But to go and to tear it up and go after everybody, I think they just need help. You know what I mean? I think people just need help. But there's a lot more good coaches than bad coaches, and there's a lot more positive stuff coming out of hockey than negative coming out of hockey. But sports and hockey just mimics what's going on outside of the locker room.
Good point. Yeah.
It's whether you're talking about injustices and abuse, or substance abuse, or just
it's a microcosm. Yeah,
the design of politics and structure, like that's just hockey's just a microcosm of society.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
What you see in society and you see in hockey, but I think the overall culture, and there's more good people in the game than there is bad, versus a lot of different jobs and organizations outside of sports that, you probably have a lot more a-holes and, and abuse going on than that. So it's, I think it's always evolving, right? It's always been evolving. I think you just got to find a happy medium with some of these, these extreme views that, I think media is responsible for a lot of this. And there's probably, insurance. I'm not even sure where a lot of this pressure is coming from, but I feel like we're so quick to jump on whatever the new opinion is of the week. You know what I mean? Because it's easy to jump on, and we take out a hockey. If you want to take out concussions, to take out fighting. Well, yeah, it seems like a simple truth, but what they don't tell you, and you can't really quantify, is what fighting does to the to the psyche to bring in peace and accountability. You know what I mean? You can't quantify that, but you take out fighting. Okay, we'll remove 4% of the concussions. Well, it's still got you still got 96% of the concussions still in the game. The game's faster than ever. Guys are bigger, faster, stronger than ever. So you need to be able to protect your players and hold them up a little bit, slow them down, and have that beef on the other side where it's like, okay, well, guess what? If something does happen, well, I can go at least self-police it. And maybe that won't happen again. But, if you're going to leave it up to the refs, it's just like, okay, well, you can't defend yourself in the real world. You can't have a firearm. You can't defend yourself. But we'll just wait till the police get there. They'll save you. It's like, it's just like these irrational ways of thinking in certain situations. Like, oh, yeah, if someone's beating on you or, doing this, just wait for the refs and go on the power play. Well, it's like something to be said about defending yourself, right? I mean, I'm not pushing violence, but like, when you go so far to the other side, it just opens up real, true non-tough guys to becoming a tough guy, because there's no true tough guy, So that psyche is powerful one. I mean, I remember playing games where, I'm planning on playing against Donald Brashear and the Washington Capitals. Oh, Brashear's not playing; he's hurt. Well, guess what? I can go run around like a bigger jackass out there because I don't have to fight the biggest baddest dude in the league. Versus, okay, well, now he's in the, he's in the lineup. I might have to be careful with what I do because I don't want him to grab me in a vulnerable position. So, that psyche, I think that the psyche has just evolved into, we're like nerfing the world and bubble wrapping everything. Yeah. Be cautious of what we say and, how we do. And there's a fine line. Don't get me wrong. I mean, abuse is abuse and physical abuse is physical abuse. And, but something to be said about someone telling you exactly how it is and not holding back. You know what I mean? Not sugarcoating shit and being honest with you. I think being honest is the best thing we can do for our youth. But but where's the line now of like being honest and now being abusive? I think that's where it gets gray and it's up for interpretation. Some people are softer. Be like, if someone told you, you had a brutal game and you played like a pansy, like, that could be taken as abuse and crossing that line, where I think that's positive. You're just 100% truthful. That's what, from a coach, that's what I want to hear. I want a coach that's honest with me, that's actually talking to me, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. But, again, there's a fine line there, but now it's crossing over into abuse. But I think we just become so soft and it's easy to, it's about the kids, it's about the kids, and it is absolutely. We got to protect them. We got to create a better future for them.
Well, this is the type of athlete we bring up when we give participation ribbons for everything. There's no true champions anymore. Everyone's a winner. You're just fine the way you are. Riley, I really appreciate your time. I want to cut you loose because I respect your time. We're running a little long here. Who do you still stay in touch with from the old days in hockey? Who's some of your boys that you're still chummy with?
Yeah, I stay in touch with Dan Carcillo, Jeff Carter.
Guys you used to fight?
Yeah, guys I used to fight. My old roommate, Grant McNeil. There's a few guys online. Trevor Gillies and Scott Parker and these guys. They're in and around online. We're always firing off comments, stuff like that. But Carcillo is probably. And Todd Fedoruk, some other guys I see around, the Flyers, Flyers games, the alumni guys. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to keep up with everybody.
So busy, yeah.
I mean, I got so many people I would love to constantly be in contact with, but you just know how it is. It's just it's nearly impossible.
I'm gonna go put Ashley on my notification list so I see her tweets from now on, man. I missed this. I think the last video I saw was you. I don't know, sitting in the living room and I don't know, playing a trick on one of the kids coming in. I retweeted that. I just love that video. But just on the way out, give me a good sound bite about Coach Cherry grapes. What do you think? What do you think of the whole takedown of Ron McLean, kind of throwing him under the bus, and this whole cancel culture and politically correctness? I don't know.
Yeah,
I know you're not usually that political, but I couldn't have you on without asking you about grapes.
Yeah, well, I think Don Cherry probably should have been fired a long time ago. Honestly, I mean, I think he brings a value of entertainment to Hockey Night in Canada, but you listen to the guy talk, and he's clearly disconnected with the present. So, yeah, I love him. I grew up watching him, but I think other candidates for that position, in 2019, the comment that got him fired essentially is. He said way worse. You know what I mean? It's like I didn't think it was that bad.
I mean, it was just a mumbled speech and a bad choice of words. I mean, that's exactly what happens when the red's light. Yeah, when the red light's on, things come out differently. I mean, you're under pressure.
Exactly, and in his defense, he did have a point. It's just again, it's the culture that just can't accept it. He's like, you just got to say it a different way. Well. It was just him telling people to respect, show a little more respect is basically what I got out of it. But he has his way of delivering things. He always has. He's always rode that line, crossed over it many times, and that was just the straw that broke the camel's back. But I mean, I think I think clearly there's a disconnect with his view of hockey and probably politics and other things that than many, and I think there's a ton of guys that could take that job. Obviously he's the face of Hockey Night in Canada, but you got to have someone that's a little bit more educated. You know what I mean? Especially it's like 'cause I have to turn him off sometimes because it's just like, come on, man, like really, like is that how you see it, or that's how you're gonna say it? Yeah. But people just think it's funny or it's comical, or there's probably a ton of Canadians that actually believe what he's saying, unfortunately, but I think most of the people in the hockey world are just kind of shake their head at a lot of stuff he's saying. And even though he was an icon and still is, you got to move on. You know what I mean? It's like, that's part of this evolution, is just like bringing in, younger voices, more connected voices, people that actually understand it, the modern game a little bit more, the modern mentality a little bit more, not to soften it up that much, but, Ron McLean seems like a pretty, grounded guy that's been, listening to this rubbish for years and years and years, and just, shaking his head, and the way, the way he's looking, on TV is the way most people are thinking at home, and the way I know, certainly the way I'm coming, but
my battery's dying too.
Yeah, it was my phone.
Brother, thank you so much for the time. I'll touch you up soon. Hemp Hills Music Festival. Are you still putting that on?
I am, yeah.
Okay,
actually, we moved it from Philly this year to New Jersey, right over the water, over the bridge, because they actually knocked down the venue that was hosting the Hemp Hills Music Festival, and they turned it into basically a series of condos. So we had to shift states. Okay. Live venue and everything, but yeah, still doing that, and then doing some stuff with hockey, the Hemp Hills stuff. Hemp Hills hockey is just teaching the youth about hemp seeds and the nutrition and CBD recovery, all that stuff. So
awesome,
all good stuff.
All right, brother. I appreciate your time. I love you lots, and give my best to the wife, and I look forward to see some more videos of those kids of yours running around. You're looking great, man. I appreciate the time, and we'll catch up soon. Thank you, brother.
Thanks.
All right.
Have a good day.
Peace,
Take
bro.
care.
That was Riley Cote. If you need him, former tough guy for the Philadelphia Flyers. Hemp Heals Foundation, Hemp Heals Music Fest. He was a Calder Cup winner with the Phantoms, and Man of the Year in 2006-07 for the Phantoms, the Pelle Lindbergh Award. We talked about his older sister. He's been pretty active in the MS community, and he's got his Cote culture coming up soon. But Body Check Wellness, that's with a K, not a CK, bodycheckwellness.com. You can catch him there. And he's making his tour. He's hitting some podcasts and whatnot. But thank you for tuning in today. It'll be up on YouTube later. Don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and comment. Peace out, yo. Peace. Peace. Cameras everywhere. How do you end the meeting? Click end meeting. End meeting for all. Save this one. That one's saving. Your recording that needs to be converted before viewing. Peace, bro.